Hey everybody, it's Tim Baldermann and welcome to this edition of Too Honest for Social Media. Joining me today to talk about a really important topic, village finances, property taxes, all the things that people ask questions about that they really should know because it's your local government that affects you the most. So joining me today is Kim Auchstetter, our finance director. Kim was begging me for weeks to come on this podcast. She's so excited. She loves to do this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So Kim, I'm glad I could finally have you out here. You can stop sending me emails and text messages asking when you can get on.
Yes.
Obviously that's not true, but Kim, thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thanks. Yes, I started here at the village 33 years ago in 1992. I was an auditor prior to that. I did graduate from Northern Illinois University, got my CPA, was with an accounting firm, an auditing firm that audited mostly governments, municipalities, and schools. And so New Lenox was one of our clients, and that's how I learned about New Lenox, the opportunities here to become a finance director, and I took the job 33 years ago.
So. Oh, that's great. Yeah, 33 years with the village. You've done a phenomenal job for us. Every year we talk about our record keeping. We're recognized for our budgeting and everything that we do. That's gone on for how many years, roughly? I mean, decades that we've been recognized for good accounting practices here at the village.
Both budget and audit.
Budget and audit, which is critically important.
Yes.
So as working in the private sector as an auditor, did that prepare you for what you were going to do when you came here to the village, or was there a whole nother side of things that you hadn't seen yet?
No, I was pretty prepared. I had been on municipal audits quite a bit, and I was familiar with New Lenox, much smaller. I think it was about 9,600 people at the time. But I understood all the facets of a municipality. But the Village New Lenox has grown tremendously, and there's a lot of departments that have taken off more so than other communities that I had audited. So I've seen a lot here, and it's grown.
Yeah, absolutely, it has. So when you're doing that auditing, you're obviously looking through the books and everything. Are you looking through the budgets of these towns as well as an auditor?
Well, you're comparing budgets to actual numbers, so you want to make sure that they're budgeting something that is approved by the municipality, the board, and making sure that they're spending within that budget. So it is a combination of both. So they do variance analysis, and that's kind of what I do when I'm working here also. I compare budget to actual all the time.
And so you actually have to look at minutes of meetings as well, too, right?
Yes.
To make sure that everything has been approved officially by the board.
Yep, and I make sure that we have that support today to provide for our auditors, too.
All right. Well, that's great. Let's talk about our village budget here in New Lenox. So, roughly, what are we looking at? What are we budgeting for? What are our revenues, our expenditures?
So this year's budget operating revenue is about $83 million on the revenue side. On the expenditure side, we're just about $65 million. Most of our municipal operating expenditures are personnel costs. About 60% is personnel costs. On the revenue side, there's various items that make up the revenue. Sales tax being most of it, 43% of the budget is sales tax, and so personnel and sales tax are a good portion of what I focus on.
Sure. Personnel from the expenditure side and sales tax from the revenue side, and we will get into in a little while where the taxes come from for the village: property tax, sales tax, hopefully soon hospitality, that sort of thing, and what our percentages are. But yeah, you've got those staffing costs, as you said. We have grown from the time you started till now, where we're realistically pretty close, if not at 30,000 people. The census says 27,000, but probably at 30,000 people. And staffing makes up a huge portion of those expenditures.
Yes. As we grow, we have to grow in staff. So.
All right. So as the finance director, when it comes to budgeting, you need to meet with the department heads. How does that process work for you?
Sure. It starts pretty much in December, which is 6 months into the year is October 31st. So at that point, we have an idea where we are after 6 months. December is when we start to meet with the department heads, try to forecast out where we are currently in our budget, both revenue and expenditures, and then we start to forecast what we think is going to continue on to the next year. So it's a long process. It really is at least 6 months of of budgeting. A lot of it happens in the spring for the April 30th year end, May 1st new budget year.
And that's it. And that's important because you talked about, October being halfway, but that's because we're on a fiscal year, not a calendar year.
Correct.
So our budget's running from May 1st of any year to
April 30th.
Mm-hmm. Right. All right. So that's a big process. Obviously, you meet with these department heads, and we're very, very fortunate. We have a great police department, a great public works department, village hall staff, but clearly, with the way our town is growing, with not just residentially, but the more businesses you bring in, the more area that has to be plowed, the more police that have to be out there. That's got to be a tough balance for the need for additional personnel and the dollars that we actually are bringing in.
Correct. It is something that we work on. Departments give their requests. They take all that into consideration. Are we, is our area larger? Do we have to cover more areas? Do we need more trucks? Do we need more people? It's just, or do we need more squad cars? And that all goes and plays into our formation of the budget.
Okay, so you talked about expenditures roughly being in the 60-some million and revenues in 80 million. Someone listening might be like, wow, you've got $15 million a year in surplus, so you're just socking away. Is that the case?
No, that is not the case.
All right, so how do we reconcile that?
Well, we have some obligations that are the timing of paying debt instruments is that's staggered throughout the term of the debt, or you have we reserve money. We want to save for a rainy day, so we have a policy to do 25% reserve of fund balance. In some years, we're able to do more than that, and that's good because things like COVID, hits, and some things stop producing revenue, but we have the expenditures to continue to provide the services. So we have to make sure we have that reserve on hand, and so we do not we aren't just taking in money that we don't need. It's saved for reserves.
Absolutely, and that's important because people, especially in Illinois, are feeling like they're overtaxed constantly, and they feel that rightfully so, because their property taxes in particular, that's the biggest gripe, are through the roof. I mean, we are the number one state now. I think we've surpassed New Jersey as the worst property tax state of all 50
Not a
states
good
in the
reputation
country.
to have.
No, that's not something that you want. I mean, when you pass New Jersey, you're in big trouble. So, but understandably, a lot of people don't really know where that tax money goes. And so looking at the property tax bill that people get here in New Lenox, for example, from last year's levy. The Forest Preserve gets some. The Will County passed their rule, their law of community mental health board, so there's money that goes for that. You've got the New Lenox Township. So even though we're incorporated in the village, we're still part of a township as well. So there's township taxes to go.
Yep.
Services
they
that
provide
go.
services to us.
Absolutely. The township and the New Lenox Township road funds. So you've got those. You got the Fire Protection District because they're not a part of the village. They're their own district. New Lenox School District 122, High School District 210, the Community College District, JUCO. You've got, of course, the Village New Lenox, the Park District, the Library, and Will County. So for all of those groups, 70% of your overall property tax bill here is going to our grade school district and our high school district. And for us here, we're pretty fortunate that we have great schools educating our kids. So even, people say, well, I don't have kids in there and all my tax money goes there. Well, but your home is worth more because of the education. Maybe you did have kids, and there's this belief that we all have an obligation to take care of each other as a community. What are we getting here at the village on every dollar we're getting what?
We're getting 3.6% of the tax bill.
Yeah, 3.6%. That's it for the village. So that's really minimal. for us.
We are not operating the village's budget off of the property taxes.
Not at all. As a matter
No.
of fact, for years we've been giving it back. And of course, because we're doing some reinvesting in ourselves here, there may be a pause on that for a while. But for many, many years, we have given millions and millions of dollars back to the taxpayers.
Yes.
Because our sales tax has been pretty good.
Yes.
We're very fortunate there.
Yes.
Okay, so the sales tax comes in, and the village, of course, is the only one that gets a share of that.
Okay.
Right? I mean, so
Yep.
schools are not getting that.
Correct.
And right. So the fire protection district isn't getting the park
Correct.
district. That's how the village is operating and paying for services.
Correct.
Now, there's a thing called LGDF, Local Government Distributive Fund.
Correct.
And can you explain, what that is? Where's that money come from?
That is income tax from the state. The state does distribute those funds to us, and it's based on per capita. That I know you'll go into the explanation of where that's been going percentage-wise from the state, but the village gets a portion of their income, or the income tax revenue comes from the state through that LGDF. We also get a use tax, which is based on per capita, and we get MFT funds based on per capita. We get a small portion of cannabis tax based on per capita. That all comes from the state, and that is distributed equally per capita to the whole state of Illinois.
To all the municipalities.
Yes.
But it's not a gift that they're giving us.
No.
That's our money.
That's our money.
It goes from us to them, and then it's supposed to come back to us.
Yes.
And the rule always was, let's take the local government distributive fund, that we would get 10% back from that income tax. 10% would come our way.
Right.
Well, we're down to 6.75%. And actually, it was lower than that not that long ago, but we're pretty fortunate that we
They
had
gave us a little bit more.
gave us a little bit more, but we're only at 6.75%. That 3.25% that we're supposed to be getting that we're not getting is costing us $1.6 million a year just in that, not to mention the other funds like MFT where they're shorting us, which has cost us nearly $100,000 a year. But $1.6 million, just imagine, as the finance director, that's a lot of money, right?
That's a lot of people that we can be hiring.
It's a lot of staff that could be hired to provide the services for our people.
Correct.
So we do have an amazing staff, and like I said at the beginning of this, people are always complimenting our police department, our public works,
Yes.
our village hall staff. But they sometimes, when they come to meet with you at budget time, maybe have to trim a little bit because of issues like this.
Yes, we have to monitor that from the state, what their state is giving us, because we don't know if it's guaranteed. So yes, we have to be conservative, and that's why we set up reserves also.
Right. And again, I will reiterate, this isn't like grants or things that we're putting in for. This is money that is ours that's supposed to be coming from us, but the state has decided not to give it to us.
Correct. And it's been
fully
declining.
funded.
It's been declining. So we definitely have to have other sources of revenue for us.
And with all of your experience in finance, it's been declining. Why? Because the state budget has such a huge hole and
Correct.
deficit. So it's coming on our backs.
Yep.
So we have this conversation frequently. We talked about the schools making up 70% of everyone's property tax bill. Not only do the schools do a good job, but the Illinois Constitution says that the state of Illinois is supposed to pay for the majority of public education. So even if you take that at 50.1%,
Right.
they are funding New Lenox Grade School District and Lincoln Way High School District somewhere between 10 and 13%. So if they were funding it at the full 50%, clearly we could see a major decline in property tax bills.
Yep.
But people say, oh, we're building new businesses in New Lenox. How come my property taxes don't go down? What was, from your experience with everything you know about finance, just because we're building new buildings and whatnot, how is that not impacting people's property tax bill?
Well, like you said, the property tax bill is schools. Majority of it is schools, non-village related taxing bodies. So they need to operate. And if they're only getting 10 to 13%, they're relying on taxes, property taxes, for them to. So the commercial units that come in, they're paying taxes and they're growing their tax base, but they still have to operate the schools.
It's nowhere near enough to cover what they
not
need.
at all.
Not even remotely close.
No.
So we bring in these businesses and we have a sales tax, and we just talked about really that's how we operate. We don't operate on property tax, we operate on sales tax. But the state also has a sales tax larger than ours on all of our retail establishments and whatnot. So the more we invest in our community, the more we're enriching our state, the less they're giving us that we have coming to us. There's a problem there.
Yes.
And it doesn't work like that in a lot of other states in the country, but it works here for a number of reasons that you and I could not possibly have enough time today to talk about why the state budget is so horrible.
Right.
But the bottom line is there's no debating the people in Illinois are paying higher property taxes because the state is fiscally irresponsible. Is there any other way to say that?
There
just isn't.
Yep.
All right, there just isn't. All right, so you talked about we provide these services, but as a growing community, we've also got some major public works projects to go on.
Yes.
So we have the wastewater treatment plant that we have to build. So we had 3 plants, one up on the north side of town by the hospital, one at the center of town that people have complained about for decades at Cedar and 30, and one in a residential neighborhood in Jackson Branch.
Correct.
One was at capacity, one was nearly at capacity. So we were forced to either spend a tremendous amount of money building onto these, putting perfume on a pig,
Right.
or building a brand new water reclamation, as Robin likes to call it, but a wastewater treatment plant.
Right.
That's a $130 million
Yes.
project. How do we pay for that?
Well, we are fortunate to obtain 2 EPA-related loans. One is WIFIA, which is the national EPA loan, and Illinois EPA loans. Both of them are low interest, and the duration of paying it back is more favorable than a typical loan. So the WIFIA loan is capped at 49% of the project, and it's paid for over 35 years.
Okay.
Which is nice. And then the Illinois EPA loan is a lower interest rate. I think it's like 1.9% interest rate, which is favorable, and it's paid off over 30 years also. So these are stretched over the life of 30 years or 35 years, which then we can keep our rates manageable.
Sure, and that's only fair because the people who live here today shouldn't have to shoulder the whole burden. As people are moving in, they're paying for their share of that.
And the
as well.
treatment plant is accommodating for that growth.
Of course.
So,
and that's important. But when we talked about, how our revenues exceed our expenditures, that's where you start talking about other obligations
Yes.
of what we have to pay for.
yes.
Okay, so one of the other big projects that we have is we have Lake Michigan Water that came on in 2001. That's the year I came on as a trustee. So we have Lake Michigan Water, and which is a benefit to our community. There's no question.
It is.
But there's a redundant water line. There's 13 different communities that are a part of this. I think maybe it's growing a little bit more. There's 1 or 2 communities from the east I thought that we're trying to hop on. But this redundant water line is very, very expensive. Our end of that now, and it's growing as time goes on, is in excess of, I think, $34 or $37 million. How do we pay for that project?
That project is paid for in our water rates. Our wholesale water rates includes the debt portion on top of paying for the city of Chicago water charge of wholesale water. We also have debt that we're paying for in that loan. Oak Lawn is spearheading the project, and they obtained IEPA low interest loans also. So we're fortunate that is also being paid for over a period of time, and our rates we're passing along it. We're not adding any fees to our rates. We are passing what we are charged.
So people are constantly upset about the cost of water. And that's in every community. I mean, our neighbors to the north have really got it bad
Yeah.
with what they're paying
Yeah.
through American Water and whatnot. But for us, it's expensive when you hear from residents saying, hey, there's only two of us and my water bill's $80 a month or $100 a month or whatever. It's more than just the water that you're using. It's the infrastructure that we
Exactly.
have to pay for and
Yes.
the delivery of
Yes.
that system.
Yes.
And staying on top of it.
Yes.
Now, we've improved water mains on Route 30. We've improved water mains on Cedar Road. Those were 50, 60-year-old water mains.
Yes.
Paid the same way?
There, we did low interest IEPA loans, and that is paid for through our rate structure.
Through our
also.
water rates.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So we certainly can understand why people are upset with the cost of water. But if you're happy you have Lake Michigan water, these are the things. It's not just that water. And not only that, the water comes from Chicago to Oak Lawn,
Yes.
to Tinley, then out to us and passes
Correct.
those other towns through there. We're at the end of the line, so the pipe has to be run the longest to get to us.
Yes.
And because of our projected growth, we have to build the pipe
To accommodate.
to accommodate for that growth, which means that we're taking on a huge part of this expense for this expansion.
Yes.
And again, is water a money-making line item for you?
Water is not a money-making line item. No, we're trying to cover our costs and making sure that we have, adequate reserves for operations.
That's it.
Yep.
That's all we're doing
Yep.
is making sure that we're taking care of that.
Yes.
All right, yeah, that's really important. So, tell me some more about some of the challenges that you're faced with as the finance director. I mean, you've got a lot. There's a lot on your plate.
Well, you throw me some challenges every once in a while.
You don't like seeing me come down the hallway to your office, do you?
No. Some of the challenges is just making sure that we understand what each department needs and making sure that we can accommodate that, budget-wise. But I also have to have an audit every year, and the audit, I have to make sure that we are following our policies and procedures and making sure we have approvals and we're not just, people are, living within their budget that was approved by the village board. So it's, the challenges is just making sure we have all those policies and procedures in place and people are following them.
And there's new rules all the time that are being passed as far as auditing goes.
Yes, I mean, yes, we are given challenges all the time. We have to add certain things to our books that require us to have actuarial calculations done all the time. It's just, it's always changing, yes.
And you have a small department. How many people do you have in your department?
I have an accountant. I have an assistant, fortunately, someone
That you just
that
got,
I
yes.
just got.
Yeah.
And I have 2 utility billing clerks that oversee the utility bills.
And that's it.
Yes.
And that's it. And so when the auditors come in, roughly how many auditors are coming in and how long are they staying?
They were here for 2 weeks, and it was a team of like 5 people. That
Yeah.
was a revolving door.
Yeah, that just goes to show you've got 5 people coming in and out for 2 weeks going through our books. That means there's an awful lot.
Yes.
And for you to do that essentially with 5 staff members, 4 for the longest time.
Right.
And that's not just all they're doing. They're following up on the water bills and everything else. So,
Yes.
there's a lot to it. Then, of course, we do, and I know you always cringe when I say, "Hey Kim, I'm going to need another $50 million." Hey Kim, I'm going to. You're happy when it's only 6 figures and not 7 or 8.
challenged me, yes.
That's right. But that falls on you a lot as well to be providing advice when we say, "Okay, we want to build this sports complex. How are we going to do this? How are we going to pay for this?" So when you get called in on these type of projects, how do you get prepared for that? What do you bring to the meeting?
Well, obviously the budget is our guide, and we have to make sure that we have those revenues in place and see where we are comparing it to budget. Are we exceeding our expectations? And hopefully we are, because I'm extremely conservative
Right.
on the revenue side, and then on the expenditure side, I always have make sure that we're covering all of our expenditures and hoping that our reserves will cover any shortfalls, which fortunately Timing sometimes is beneficial for us and whatnot. But regarding, when you ask me for, do we have the funds, we look at all of our debt obligations. The village does have a lot of debt obligations. That's because we are growing and we have made decisions such as building a new police department or public works. Those were built, expanding Nelson Road, things that benefited the whole community. Those debt instruments are falling off. And so there's opportunities to the revenue might be available for additional projects and whatnot.
Right, and that's what we want to do. So I guess in a perfect world, if we're going to spend money, we want to find a place where we can save the money.
Correct.
Instead of just adding on debt. And as you said, as some of those debt obligations fall off, that could free up some capital, not to just waste, but to invest.
Correct.
In our community. And that's you play an important part in that when we talk about how does our community grow? And people want to live here because of what we're doing. I mean, there's no doubt about it, and everything else, the schools and the parks and library, everything that they do. But we look at that return on investment as if it were a business as well, right? We're going to put this money in. What's the anticipated revenue that will come out? What's the benefit to our community, not just financially, but amenity-wise and
Right.
whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, the sports complex would be a good example of that. We invested in this facility and we have economic opportunity up there now. It's growing, and it will grow our sales tax and property tax base, and it'll benefit other entities in the municipality.
And that's right, and that's a good point, because we talked about, for example, again, our schools, they always get beat up on the taxes, but they do a great job. They're going to get 70% of the property tax bill, and when we're building businesses like that, they have no kids coming in to educate, but they are getting the money.
Correct.
So the things that we do as the village, even though the schools and the parks and they have their own boards and they do their own thing, they really rely on us to make smart decisions, to look out for all of them as we do. So do you work pretty closely with the other governing bodies, their official or their department heads in finance?
I do. We all have an audit. We all have to provide certain information about each other. So I do reach out to them, annually. I also have a good relationship with the Park District right now, and so yeah, we do. The township provides me the tax assessment information, so I can work on the tax levy annually. So we have really good relationships, and everyone's willing to share information because the information is necessary for certain things that we do.
That's right. So I mean, again, going back to, you just added your fifth person, but you do the levy, you do the budget, you've got an audit.
Yes.
I mean, there's just, all of the bonding, everything we do, it's all rolling through you in your office.
Yes.
That's a lot of work.
Yes.
And I am thrilled that you said you're going to stick around with me. As long as I'm willing to be here, you're willing to be here. So I appreciate your commitment, because you've done a great job for us. You really have, Kim. You and your team, you've got a difficult job. Not only are you responsible for the ethical and responsible budgeting of our village for our taxpayers, your staff has to deal with some of the toughest situations when it comes to complaints about water bills or shutoffs from people who are struggling to pay. So let me tell you, you and your department have gotten a lot of awards, of course, for what you've done, but more importantly, I think we recognize that we're able to do the things that we do because you do run a conservative department. You're really very smart with our finances and have been for a long time.
I'm fortunate that, number one, I'm supported by you and the trustees and the village administrator. To have that additional person added this year was wonderful. But I also we have a lot of customer service that we have to provide, like you said, and our utility billing department is fabulous. I mean, I overhear their conversations. They, want to accommodate people as much as they can. Our goal is not to shut off people's water if they can't pay the bill. We work with people. I feel like they're extremely kind, and we're very fortunate as a village to have them on our staff. They are
very kind and compassionate, and there have been some really good people that were there before them. So that department has always had really good people, and You know, I understand when people are frustrated because of the cost awareness. Sometimes they take it out on the staff. That's human nature. They don't mean it. Times are tough for people.
Yeah.
But I, too, agree. I've always heard your department just treating people with respect
Yes.
and kindness and trying to be as compassionate and understanding as possible.
Yep, I appreciate that.
That's great. Well, we appreciate you. We appreciate everything you do. I'm glad we could have you on here. I think maybe what we'll do is you'll just be my regular co-host for these podcasts on a whole assortment of issues. You want to be a part of that?
I'll take a pass on
You
that.
take a pass on that? Well, I'll get you back to your office and doing what you do, but you did a great job today. Hopefully people have a better understanding of how tax bills work and why we're in the situation that we're in, how the village pays for services and whatnot. It's important for people to know that. Often people get really worked up about what's happening in Washington or federal politics, but the reality is the things that are happening here at your village, at your school, at your library, your park district, this is what's impacting you the most every single day.
I agree. I
Yeah,
agree.
it really is. And you do a wonderful job for all of
Yeah.
us, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank all of you for watching this edition of Too Honest for Social Media.
Stealing your life.